Moya is Associate Professor, Department of Social Work in the College of Health Sciences, the University of Texas at El Paso, a native of the US-Mexico border, Kellogg National Leadership Fellow, and recently also inducted for civic leadership to the Women's Hall of Fame in El Paso. So Eva, can we have your comments?
For me, the take-home message is, how do we look at places that may be structurally unequal in its approach and its access to good and opportunity, but how do we build bridges to connect? So in building those bridges and relationships to solidify it and lift the unconscious, the consciousness of the community, how do we heal some of that history so that we can truly be the neighboring brother and sister that we need to be to each other? So that's sort of like the first key message. Then the second is a big question, which is, how do you engage communities that have been traditionally oppressed? And you do that with great humility, in a way that it's that you bring about dignity, but in a way that you also find resistance, because unless there is resistance, it's very difficult to wake up from the oppression. So how does one wake up in such a way that you take ownership of that process and you use that agency that has been stated so that you can begin to turn history around? I am reminded of a powerful poem by Lao Tzu. It's about going to the people. You live with them, you learn from them, you love them, you start with what they know, you build with what they have, and at the best leaders, when the work is done, the task is accomplished, the people say we did it ourselves. So the question is sort of like, how do we make sure that communities do for themselves what they're capable of doing, so that the consciousness, the voices are raised in such a way that they carry the agency and that they search to find that equality and that access that is so very much needed, especially at a time where people have been subject to so much poverty, and this poverty has been norm as the sort of like the ongoing reality of what they live. So the key here for me is how do we become really those agents of positive change? How do we do that in such a way that we either inspire and work with communities so that, again, communities can do for themselves? COVID has really sort of like unmasked what is so obvious and real, which is already the intersectionality of inequalities, of poverty, of how groups of people are already at the greatest advantages. But how do we use this time to stand up, to organize, to advocate, and to reclaim hope, and really influence the way that resources are being allocated? How do we do that in a way that it's fair, that is efficient? How do we use the data that we have? I don't think it's about soup kitchens. You know, of course we need to feed people, but most importantly, how do we feed the soul and feed the spirit so that we can embark in systematic change? And with that, I want to thank you and honor you for everything that you have done and people that you have inspired and movements that you have started.